Hello, this is a Model K Steinway upright piano, 133 centimeters tall, made in 1935, and it's come in for assessment. The client's moving it. Apparently it's been in storage for a long time, and now they just want to get it assessed to get the mechanism repaired. The casework then not too worried about, and in fact the casework has been refinished at some stage with a kind of satin finish. You can see there's a few things we could certainly try and improve. But generally the case is quite reasonable condition. There's a bit a bung missing there, so just a few things that we could try to improve certainly, and but the case is generally quite smart. Now it's an 88 note Steinway. A lot of the very old ones, say pre-1900, are often 85 and perhaps a bit later than that too, but 1935 it's a very good year for Steinway. Actually, we've bought and sold several of those. So as you can see, the ivories here have come off. Often when the piano's in storage, it's perhaps got a bit damper, and then that causes the wood to swell, and the ivory obviously doesn't swell and can come off very easily. I pushed one of them up and it came off very easily, so we've got to check them all so then make sure none of them are going to come off again. There's 10 of them off altogether, 9 plus the one that came off when I was assessing the piano. Unfortunately I've managed to find them all, so there's a bunch of them there, and put some elastic band around them to make sure that they don't get lost, because it's a nuisance when they do. It's very hard to match them. You can see lots of them have gone quite yellow. Now we can try and improve that. You can, if we buff them, a lot of that will come out. If we scrape and polish them, so scrape them first and then buff them, then we'll get rid of a lot of the yellow if you want that done. But obviously ivory does yellow, so that's quite normal. To get rid of this line that you see between the front and the back, because they're two-piece, normal for that age of piano, it's very difficult to get rid of that line completely, but it's a skill to try to obviously minimise that. And you can see at the top here where there's not come off at all. I think that one may have come off. You can hardly see the line at all, so that's something we try and do. And you can see some of the fronts here that we can't do much about that other than replace the ivory with those little cracks. You get that in a lot of older top quality pianos, and you can't really do much about that unless you replace the ivory, but then it won't be very hard to match the back, although we do have literally thousands of potential replacement ivories which we've taken off other pianos. The legroom on the piano is 26 inches, which is wonderful, so that's very high. So if you look at that, 66 centimeters, normally 61 or 2, say in the Yamaha U3, so that's good legroom. The pedals are a bit high. They're 8 centimeters from the floor. They should perhaps be 7, and that's the case on many Steinways, or most Steinways of this age. The casters are quite tall, so you can take smaller casters on, but they are the original ones. So we're a bit reluctant to do that, but it is possible to get the pedals lower by doing that. And the stool, I'm trying to keep the stool here to show you that the stool is actually 2 inches, sorry to mix inches and centimetres, 11 inches from the key to the top of the stool, and that's normally about 9 inches, so the stool's very low for the piano. I've talked to us about this before. We really do like to have low duet stools, and at home we've always had one, and then put cushions on for different people rather than have adjusting ones. But this is too low for this piano, I think. Anyway, for me it would be. So I would put a couple of cushions on possibly. We could keep the piano stool and just do that. To me it's more sensible than having an adjustable piano stool, which you always have to adjust for different people. Especially if it's a duet stool, we're assuming 2 people are going to play and they'll want to be a different height. You can get duet stools that kind of like adjust, what we call teachers' duet stools, where one side, so there's like 2 adjustments. But I find that not as good as having a low duet stool and putting cushions on for different people. Well, you may have your own opinion. If you'd like to give your opinion, that'd be very useful. Now the mechanism's in generally very good condition, but there are 1 or 2 repairs to make, and also there's lots of regulation to do. For instance, this is checking, almost stopping the string from sounding. Checking very late indeed, should be checking about 2 centimeters from the string. So let's regulate that and see what it's like afterwards. So this check wire here needs to be bent. It's best to bend it at the bottom rather than the top, though on this piano you could probably bend it at the top without any problem, but sometimes you'll break it at this point, so that's not advisable. It's best to bend it there, and then we can get it checking the right amount. So now I've regulated it and it's checking and pulling off, and the string's allowed to to sound, whereas the next one is almost stopping the string from sounding. There's quite a few repairs to make. I can see some obvious ones straight away, and this pin on this hammer is very, very loose, and it may be that the flange is slightly broken. And by the way, there are what we call H flanges on this piano, so it's one of the last H flange Steinway uprights, and I don't know if I can show you the H flange. So if you look here, the flange for the hammer is the same as the flange for the damper. It goes right across the same flange, and so it's a bit dark, but I haven't got any torch with me apart from my phone, which I can't use as a torch at the moment. And so if you see that flange there, it actually goes, we call it an H flange because it's in the shape of an H, and both the hammer and the damper are joined to it. Now here's the normal action. You can see this is Yamaha U1. You can see the flange at the back where that screw is, that's for the hammer, and then the damper's on a separate flange. This damper also needs repairing. It's very, very loose, as you can see, and that one seems to have moved over a bit. So there's some work to do here, and we'll have to check the others. We may find that some of the others need working on as well. But that's not really damping properly because it's, as you can see, it's moving on, not hitting that one of the strings properly. And there are other dampers that aren't quite working properly either, but generally you can see they're in good condition. There's a couple here. You see that one there is not hitting. That one there is not hitting the third string there. It's slightly over to one side, and that one is over to one side, though it's damping quite well. The tone of this age of Steinway upright is just superb. It's one of the best uprights you can get, and we often buy, restore and sell them. In this case it's been played quite a lot, and consequently there's work to do. Let's listen to the tone of the hammers. A very rich tone. That one we talked about the regulation there, but tremendous potential. Now because the piano's been played quite a lot, the hammers here are quite indented and need refacing and voicing, because if you listen to them now, especially played softly, they're very weak sounding, and too much hammers hitting the string, and they're kind of blocking off the string as they hit it. So just getting the shape back on the hammer, and in fact making it to a slight point, if anything. That's what we tend to do when we reface, try and make it round like it is, but if anything to a slight point, and then it will hit clearly. And there is enough hammer to reface here, so that will be fine. We don't have to replace the hammers. And so if we listen again, here it's very weak sounding, and there's variety. That's a bit stronger, but generally a bit weak. That was not damping properly. And going down here, there are some stronger sounding ones, but they need voicing generally. So refacing, especially around this area here, that's where the refacing matters the most. And then as you go down towards the bass, it's less noticeable if you reface the piano. And then they obviously need voicing afterwards. So that's something, probably the most important job we can do apart from the repairs and the regulation and general tuning. There's a couple of tapes here. They have been replaced at some stage, so I think when the strings were cleaned, and they probably replaced the tapes as well. And these two here, they've probably been taken off and put back on, and really need replacing. I think. I don't think you can make much out of that one. So I've roughly refaced one of the hammers here, and we'll see what difference it makes. By the way, when you reface, it's important to make sure it hits all the strings at the same time. So let's have a listen. And that's played with the same force. You can see played slowly, played quietly, I mean. It makes a huge difference to the tone. So the main work to do on this piano, I think pitch raising, obviously we raise it from 436 to 440, probably take it up to 441 or 2 just to allow it to drop down again a bit. So pitch raising, repairing the dampers and the hammer hinges, and we'll see if there are others that need repairing. There's a couple of tapes to repair, but I think the most important difference we're going to make is refacing the hammers. So I've tried to show you on one of those what difference it makes. If you listen to it now without the, let's see which one it was, if you can remember. That one there has a much cleaner sound. It's played gently. You hear the difference straight away. And now these ivories obviously need replacing, and we talked about that too. So that's another important job. It's an excellent instrument generally. Really thrilled with the sound of the instrument, so that's going to turn out beautiful. Now the other task that will improve it enormously is general regulation, especially the checks, as I was trying to show earlier. That will make a huge difference to the playability of the piano. So that's an assessment of a Steinway Model K upright piano, made in 1935, and a superb instrument. The kind of instrument that we like to buy and sell and restore. We tend to do the rosewood coloured ones, but we do black ones too if they're in good condition. And there's lots of issues with it, the regulation, the voicing of the hammers, and the key tops obviously, that's something, we have to check them all by just touching them, making sure none of them are likely to come off. In fact, lots of them we may need to just redo, just take off and re-glue, because they may already be a bit loose. So it's a lot of work, but worth doing, I think. Very much worth doing, in fact. Thank you very much for listening, and please let us know if you're interested in having a piano restored. Please write to info@robertspianos.com.